Namaskar. I welcome you all to the seventh and the last day of Spikmake Anubhav series 2022. Spikmake, the Society for the Promotion of Indian Classical Music and Culture amongst the youth, is a voluntary movement that has been around for more than 4 decades now. The aim of the movement is to enlighten the youth of India by spreading knowledge and awareness of a rich, diverse heritage. Spikmake Anubhav is an interactive series that has been curated with the aim of providing the students a creative outlet as well as become aware of their culture and traditions. It provides the students an opportunity to connect with some of the greatest gurus through various activities and sessions they organize, like concerts, discussions, conventions, and much more. Anyone with zeal, dedication, and motivation to promote Indian culture is welcomed wholeheartedly to become a volunteer at Spikmake. Team Spikmake takes this opportunity to extend a very warm welcome to one and all participating in this very unique Anubhav series and to everyone tuned to our channel online to experience the mysticism of a rich Indian art, culture, and heritage. Heritage walks are the best way to learn and recognize our culture, traditions, philosophy, and much more, and the associated rituals with them. Thus, today we have planned a virtual tour to the heritage site of Hampi. Hampi is a World Heritage Site and the capital of the Vijayanagara dynasty. It is one of the most foremost cities in the world between the 14th and the 16th century. Although today in ruins, but the city is still glorious on account of its beautiful temples, palaces, and other structures. This illustrated lecture will focus on the history, architecture, sculptures, and other details of Hampi. We are really glad to have Dr. Chithra Madhavan with us, who will take us through this intriguing virtual tour of Hampi. Dr. Chithra Madhavan has a PhD in ancient history and archaeology. She is the recipient of 2 postdoctoral fellowships. She has published 9 books and co-edited 2. She regularly conducts heritage tours to palaces of historical and archaeological significance in India and abroad. We welcome you, ma'am.
Namaste. Thank you very much for inviting me to deliver a lecture on Hampi for Spikmake. I wish to thank Mrs. Sunita Raghavan and Aditya Rangan for all the coordination that they have been doing. Allow me a minute to screen share, please. At the outset, I would like to make it very clear that a lecture of a duration of 1 hour or rather 50 minutes is honestly not enough to talk about the glory of Hampi. Having said that, I think even spending a week or 2 weeks on the site itself is not enough to talk about the glory of Hampi. Nevertheless, what I can do is at best show you some of the highlights of Hampi, some of the places that are really important from the historical, archaeological, cultural viewpoint. So we start at the very beginning, which is a very good place to start. And this black dot on the map, which you see in the state of Karnataka today, was the glorious site of Vijayanagara. The name of the city was Vijayanagara. The ruined site of Hampi today on the banks of River Tungabhadra in Karnataka. The name was Vijayanagara, which translates in this language called Sanskrit, into city of victory. How prophetic that name was. It really was the city of victory. The name Hampi came about because this city was situated on the banks of what we now call the Tungabhadra, River Tungabhadra, which was earlier known as Pampa, the river Pampa. and Pampa became Hampa, became Hampi. So that's how that name came about. And this is where Hampi is, and the closest town is Hospet, which is where most people stay to go to this UNESCO World Heritage Site, which is what it is today. At the height of its glory, in the reign of this illustrious monarch, this emperor called Krishna Devaraya in the 16th century, I have taken this map from the net. This is how great, this is the jurisdiction of the Vijayanagara Empire, almost the whole of South India and including parts of Kalinga, Orissa also. So you see, this Hampi, we'll call it Hampi, this Vijayanagara, was one of the foremost cities in the whole world. We'll come to that a little later. And the Vijayanagara Empire was the largest empire in the medieval times in the whole of Asia. So that's the kind of empire and that's the kind of city we're going to be talking about today. We're wondering what this is. This is a modern painting. Sorry, excuse me. And this is a modern painting of the crest, the logo, the emblem of the Vijayanagara emperors, of the Vijayanagara dynasty. So you have a wild boar, a Varaha, with a dagger or a sword in front, and Surya, the sun, and Chandra, the moon on top. This is a very interesting emblem. It's not just an ordinary emblem, it has a symbolism, it has a meaning. The Varaha Avatara of Vishnu, as you may all know, was the third incarnation of Vishnu, which was taken to protect the earth from the hands of a demon, a Rakshasa, called Hiranyaksha. So the Vijayanagara emperors chose this Varaha symbol, this Varaha emblem, to show that they would protect South India from many an invasion. How were they going to do it? With the help of their arms, shown with the help of a dagger or a sword. For how long were they going to do it? Till Surya and Chandra exist, as long as the sun and moon are there in the world. Well, that didn't quite happen, but for many a century, starting from 1336 AD, for many, many, many centuries, did the Vijayanagara rulers protect South India from many, many, many an invasion and safeguarded its best interests. So we'll come to why the Vijayanagara Empire was actually started. It was started by two brothers called Harihara and Bukka. In history, they are known as Hakka and Bukka. They were the sons of a king named Sangama, who ruled from a small principality called Kampili, which is a small village close to Hampi today. Now, to cut a very long story short, because of time constraints, in a place called Sringeri, the very famous Sringeri in Karnataka, which is home to the Sringeri Mata, the Shankaracharya Mata, the pontiff then, the Shankaracharya then, was called Swami Vidyaranya. And Swami Vidyaranya from Sringeri was looking at the happenings of South India, and he was a bit disconcerted. He found that invasion after invasion was coming from the north. They were plundering the south, which had very weak rulers prior to 1336. The great Cholas had disappeared. All the other powers were not able to stand up to the force of the invasions that were coming from the north. And as a result of that, there was absolutely no political stability in South India, nowhere in South India. And because there was no political stability, there was no economic prosperity. And therefore, not to talk of culture at all. When there is no economic stability, we can't even talk of culture. So he was very worried, and rightfully so, that the entire fabric of South India may completely disintegrate. And his eyes fell on these two very young, very brave men, Harihara and Bukka, and with their help, and he being the brain, this is traditional history that we have with us, they decided to set up the nucleus of what they hoped would be a big kingdom and then an empire to protect the whole of South India. And then, again, to cut a long story short, this place on the banks of River Tungabhadra, which was already a fairly well established place, it was like not a nothing at all place. It was already there from the times of the kings of the Chalukyas and later the kings of the Hoysalas. These are all various other dynasties of the south. So you already had temples there. It was not a forsaken place. It was a trade center. Much was happening there. But Harihara and Bukka, with the help of Swami Vidyaranya, chose this place, and it was named Vijayanagara, prophetically, as I said, as the city of victory. Harihara and Bukka, in fact, went a step further and called it, we know this from inscriptions that are there, they called it Vidyanagara in honor of Swami Vidyaranya, who had given them so much of support. Now, how do we come to know about Vijayanagara history? How do we come to know about this fantastic metropolis called Vijayanagara, today's Hampi? We have lots of coins. These coins, many of them in gold and in other metals, are sources of history. We also have inscriptions such as these in various languages. We have them in Telugu, in Kannada, in Tamil, in Sanskritam, various languages. And these are great, great sources of history. We also have archaeological excavations that have happened and are happening in Hampi and in other places. And we have literature in various Indian languages. Plus, most important, I would say most important, there were a whole lot of foreigners who were visiting this empire called Vijayanagara. Most of them coming to Hampi, having spent years over there. These were ambassadors. These were traders. These were all kinds of people coming from all kinds of places, from Persia, from Portugal, from Italy, from XYZ, so many countries, and they were coming to Vijayanagara, and they stood awed at what they saw, especially the capital. We'll again come to that a little later. And their writings, their diaries, which have been left behind for us in their own languages, have been translated, and we get precious, precious material from them about the kings, the lives of the kings, the palaces, the common people, customs, practices, oh, what have you. We have everything we want from the writings of the foreign travelers. So this is the grand river Tungabhadra, which skirts on one side of Hampi, which is actually a natural barrier, which was a natural barrier against invaders. And all around, can you see all these hills? These hills also acted as natural fortifications. In addition, the Vijayanagara emperors from the start built uh, forts, fortifications also. There are said to be 7 of them around the city of Hampi, so it was virtually impregnable. Hampi was very, very difficult to access by the enemies, and that is how strong this city stood, from which the king governed almost the entire South India and at one point Orissa also. There is another thing that I want to say. Many of you may be familiar with this epic, this itihasa called the Ramayana. The original Ramayana was written by a rishi named Valmiki, and that is the Valmiki Ramayanam in Sanskritam, consisting of 24,000 shlokas. And it's divided into many sections, and each section being called a kanda. There is one kanda called the Kishkinda Kanda, and that's when Rama and Lakshmana, in their sojourn in the forest, meet Hanuman, who takes them to meet Sugriva, and the rest is history. Most of us are familiar with that text. Now, this place is called Kishkinda Kanda because that is the place where Sugriva was living. That was Vali's empire, etc., etc. That Kishkinda is today's Hampi, yesterday's Vijayanagara. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Names tally, the geographical descriptions tally, everything tallies. Now, this is how fertile Hampi is. Very, very fertile place because the river Tungabhadra literally gushes by the side. It is also very rocky, and the rocks are what led to the building of all these beautiful temples and the monolithic sculptures that we are going to see. Standing very tall in the center of Hampi, alongside the river Tungabhadra that you can see in the background, is this temple which is called the Virupaksha Temple. It's a Shivalaya, it's a Shiva temple, and the original name, as we know, it was Pampa Pati. Now, Pampa, as I have explained earlier, is this river Tungabhadra, its ancient name. Pati means lord of. So, again, in Hindu tradition, we know that Lord Shiva is very fond of rivers. He even has the Ganga on his head. So, Pampapati is the lord of the river Pampa, that is Lord Shiva, and this temple was the Pampapati temple. But when the Vijayanagara rulers decided to make this place their capital, slowly over time the name changed to Virupaksha. Pampapati's name changed to Virupaksha, which is another name for God Shiva. You see, he has the third eye. Virupaksha is a reference to the third eye. This temple was there even before Hariharan Bukka decided to make it their capital. It was there as a small temple. But when the Vijayanagara rulers, Hariharan Bukka, stepped into this place, they took on this Pampapati, this god Shiva, as their family deity, as their Kula Daivam. And the name Virupaksha happened to, it came to be. So, whenever the Vijayanagara rulers wrote out an inscription, meaning when their orders were written down in the form of an inscription, they would say, dash dash, Krishna Devaraya, Achyutaraya, etc., is giving this order, etc. The last line would be Sri Virupaksha, meaning that they were ruling on earth over this empire as regents of Lord Virupaksha, as regents of God Shiva. And because he was their family deity, this temple came to be grandly extended. Huge gopuras were built, more sanctums were built, and even today, very luckily, this Virupaksha temple remains in active worship. It is hardly as damaged as many of the other temples in Hampi, which are in absolute ruins. So this is the Virupaksha temple that you are seeing. Very stately, very tall, in active worship, full of lovely pieces of architecture, most of which are Vijayanagara, but traces of the original sanctums are also there. Now, what the Virupaksha temple is very well known for, among various other things, are the paintings that you see on the ceiling of a mantapa as you enter the temple. So there's this grand mantapa of the Vijayanagara times, and if you look up, you will find these paintings. And among these paintings, one of the most important is a pontiff being taken in procession like this. You can see elephants following. It's like a royal procession. It's very grand. Soldiers holding arms, etc. Now, this person who is seated on this palanquin, this sannyasi, is Swami Vidyaranya. He was honored not only by Hariharan Bukka, but by 5 generations of Vijayanagara kings, because it was this Vijayanagara empire was his brainchild. This is our traditional sources telling us so. Again, on the ceiling, which is divided into compartments, that's very typical of Vijayanagara paintings to be like this with borders and all. You have another lovely painting of God Shiva as Tripurantaka. When Shiva wields the bow and arrow, very rare to see Shiva with a bow and arrow. He does here hold a bow and arrow, and he's killing 3 asuras, 3 demons in 3 cities. Lovely specimens of Vijayanagara painting, Vijayanagara murals up there on the ceiling. I mean, can you imagine the amount of effort it must have taken for some artist, some great artist, or several artists perhaps, to lie down on their backs on a high scaffolding and then paint on the ceiling? I mean, what a tremendous effort that was. So here you have Arjuna. I think most of you would be familiar with this story. Looking down at a bowl of water, seeing the reflection of a fish and shooting the arrow at it in order to win the hand of Draupadi. That is also a painting that you find on the ceiling. Yet another, inside another rectangle, is a panel showing the marriage of God Shiva and Parvati over here. Now, this is an amazing bronze image. There are many bronze images of the Vijayanagara times of various gods and goddesses, of some kings also. And this was the greatest emperor of them all. That is Sri Krishna Devaraya, who ruled from 1509 to 1529 AD. This was in the 16th century. Now, this image of Krishna Devaraya with 2 of his queens is not in Hampi. I'm showing you a photograph that was of a bronze image that is from the Tirumala, the Venkateshwara temple in Tirupati. He was a very great devotee of God Venkateshwara. In fact, he went on a pilgrimage there 7 times, not less than 7 times, and that's a lot for a very busy emperor. And his donations are clearly recorded in inscriptions over there. So this, again, we are coming back to the Virupaksha temple. There is a broad road in front, and this is where the temple's chariot, the Ratha, runs. Now, this road was once a very famous marketplace. It was the bazaar road of Hampi. There were many other bazaar roads, but nothing as famous as this. And this is where various things from various parts of the world were sold. When the foreign travelers came here, they were completely taken aback, completely surprised to see that, you could find anything and everything on the bazaars of Hampi, especially in this one. Many old structures, archaeological excavations have happened, are still happening in Hampi. This is the Bazaar Road, at the end of which, see where the Virupaksha Temple is over there, you walk straight down and you come over here, and inside here is a Nandi that is directly facing God Shiva. It's a monolithic Nandi. I'm afraid we don't have a picture right now. So monolithic Nandi made of one piece of stone. Straight line, he's facing the Virupaksha temple at the end of the road. We now come to another temple, and as you can see in this picture, it's in utter ruins. And this is the famous Vitula Temple. Now, Vitula is a form of Krishna, and this Vitula temple is in a place called Pandharpur. The original Vitula temple is in a place called Pandharpur in Maharashtra. Very famous is Pundarika Vitala. Now, some of the Vijayanagara kings were great bhaktas, great devotees of Vitala of Pandharpur. And one particular king, Devaraya II, in the 15th century, decided to build a temple for this god, Vitala, on the banks of river Tungabhadra. Just like the Virupaksha temple is on the banks of the river Tungabhadra, the Vitala temple is also on the banks of the river Tungabhadra. It's a very grand temple in utter ruins today, but nevertheless, it's very beautiful. So, this Vitala temple, although the construction began in the time of Devaraya II in the 15th century, was added to in a very grand way by Krishna Devaraya in the 16th century. This temple has three gopurams, three entrance ways, which were constructed, which were sponsored by the three queens of Krishna Devaraya. Now, this is the marketplace. There's no marketplace now. It was there in the medieval times. One more marketplace in front of the Vitula temple. Now, this is just one lone person, and most times this is how the streets of leading to the Vitula temple look. So this is one gopuram built by the sponsorship of one of the queens of Krishna Devaraya, completely and totally ruined. This is how it looks. Before I proceed, I must tell you, 1336 was the date of the establishment of the Vijayanagara Empire. The date in when today's Hampi, Vijayanagara was made the capital. However, in 1565, there was a huge war between the Vijayanagara forces, the Vijayanagara army, and the combined armies, the allied armies of four sultans of the Deccan. And Vijayanagara, the Vijayanagara ruler then was Sadashivaraya, but all the power was in the hands of another person from the royal family, a son-in-law of Krishnadevaraya called Ramaraya. Ramaraya led the Vijayanagara army to war against the four sultans of the Deccan. He lost the war. He was killed on the battlefield, and the retreating Vijayanagara army was chased by the victorious army. The victorious army entered Hampi, and according to one of the foreign travelers, the enemies of Vijayanagara plundered this glorious city for a very long time, for more than 6 months. And much of Hampi was in ruins. A lot of ruin happened post the war also. I mean, the complete ruin was not exactly because of the war of 1565. A little bit happened later. Hampi became, people fled from the city because of the war. We don't know what happened to all the accumulated treasures. It must have been looted by the enemies, looted by all kinds of antisocial elements, perhaps. and Hampi turned into a ghost town. The king who was residing in Hampi, Sadashivaraya, fled, and he went to a place called Penukonda in Andhra Pradesh. And from there also the Vijayanagara dynasty continued for a much longer time. But Hampi per se the glory of Hampi, I should say, came to an end in 1565. Although the temples were there, they slowly went to ruin. Anyway, back to the Vitula Temple. This is how some of the gopurams look. This is yet another and one more, completely in ruin. And you can see that the lower part was made of stone, like in most of the gopurams across South India and almost all the gopurams of Hampi. The base is made of granite. The upper part is made of brick and stucco. Stucco is like lime plaster, and all gone. Now, when we come into the premises of the Vitula temple, the one thing that will really strike your eye is this stone chariot. Many people wrongly think, I repeat, wrongly think that this stone chariot is one piece of stone. They think it's a monolith, that it is carved out of one piece of stone. That is wrong. It is made of several pieces of stone, very artistically put together and made to look like this. Now, this is really a ratha or a chariot, and it is said that the wheels could once rotate. Not that it could be pulled around the temple, that was not the idea, but in its stationary place, the wheels could actually rotate. It's a brilliant piece of architecture. So you see, Vitala is, as I said, a form of Krishna, and Krishna is Vishnu. So the Vahana or the vehicle of Lord Vishnu, as we all know, is Garuda. Now, this chariot is directly in front of the sanctum for Vitala. The sanctum for Vitala is in utter ruins today. There is no Vitala image inside that sanctum. However, directly in front of Vitala, these architects, these sculptors built a sanctum. This is actually a sanctum for Garuda. There is Garuda inside, and he's very much still there. He's standing like this with his hands towards Vitala, only there's no Vitala to see tangibly inside the main sanctum. So now, if this was going to be a sanctum for Garuda, obviously it must have a superstructure on top. It can't be flat. No sanctum is like that. There is always a superstructure on top of a sanctum. So this is how it actually looked. Now, this photograph was taken in 1856 by a person called Alexander Greenlaw. I have scanned it from a book. I'll show you the cover of the book. I need to acknowledge that. And so the lower part, as you see today, which is still standing, is made of granite. And the upper part here, which is made of brick and lime plaster, stucco, unfortunately crumbled to the ravages of time a long time back. But it was there till 1856, overgrown. There were some villagers there, uncared for, unkempt was this temple. But we understand that this is a sanctum for God Garuda. Now, this is the temple premises, and we have this stone chariot sitting right there. The other thing that this Vitala temple is known for, among various things, is the Kalyana Mantapa, or the hall where the marriage of the god and goddess used to take place, Vitala and Rukmini, and the Kalyana Mantapas of this temple and of various other temples built in the Vijayanagara times are extremely beautiful, extremely ornate, delicately carved structures. Now, in the premises of the Vitala temple, you have a sculpture of Hanuman, but I'll come to this Hanuman later. Another thing, there are very many beautiful features in this Krishna temple. The other feature are what are called the musical pillars. And you may wonder what is so musical about this pillar. It's just that, first of all, it's beautiful to look at. I mean, look at the intricate carving that's there. The whole thing is made of one piece of stone. And mind you, the whole thing is made of one piece of what is called resonant stone. So these people were geologists as well. They knew how to scout for stone that was resonant, and they quarried it, and they brought it all the way to Hampi, and they set it up over here, carved it into a beautiful pillar. You can see the main shaft inside, and it's surrounded by smaller, slender, delicate shafts. Plus, if you could tap it with a wooden stick or with a small pebble, you will get the Saptaswara, the Sarigamapadani, you will get. So, this is something absolutely amazing, and The Vijayanagara rulers had these musical pillars set up in very many temples that they built, and their successors, um, called the Nayaks, did so in various parts of Tamil Nadu as well. These are the famous musical pillars of Hampi in the Vitula Temple. So every temple has to have a tank, and this is the very beautiful Pushkarini or the temple tank of the Vitula Temple, a few meters in front. We are going to another lovely shrine. It's called the Krishna Temple. Krishna Devaraya, this great king, conquered parts of Orissa, as I told you earlier, and he captured a fort called Udayagiri, a very difficult fort to capture, and he captured it. And when he entered the Udayagiri fort, he saw a lovely image of Balakrishna, baby Krishna. He loved that image very much and ordered it to be carried to his capital city, Hampi. And that Krishna was consecrated in this Krishna temple in Hampi. Unfortunately, what happened was, when Hampi fell into ruin, that Krishna was thrown out of this temple. We'll meet him soon. So this is the Krishna temple, which was actually built in commemoration of Krishna Devaraya's victory over the Gajapati rulers of Orissa. And this is that Krishna who was in Orissa, in Udayagiri, brought all the way to Vijayanagara by Krishna Devaraya, consecrated in this temple, worshipped there for a long time, and then was unfortunately thrown out of the temple when his hands broke. You can see his sans hands, but you can see his fingers on his thigh. Must have been a lovely image. And that was found in the rubble around this temple and carried by archaeologists to Chennai, then Madras, and he is now housed in the Government Museum in Chennai. So those who want to see this baby Krishna, this Balakrishna, who was in Orissa and then in Karnataka and now in Tamil Nadu, can visit the Government Museum in Madras. He's a very historical Krishna sitting in one corner of the stone gallery, and nobody cares to look at him. He has stories and stories to tell you. Now, this Krishna temple in ruins today and not in worship at all, this is how it looks, has a gopuram, an entranceway, which must have been a very big, grand gopuram once upon a time, but like most of the gopurams in Hampi, very ruined today. Now, on the gopuram, generally when you go to the gopurams of South India, I think most of you may have at some point, what you will see are little figures of gods and goddesses adorning the gopuram to make it look very beautiful. So if it's a Shiva temple, you will have a whole lot of Shaivite sculptures, and it's a Vishnu temple. Likewise, however, in this Krishna temple, you hardly find images of gods and goddesses. Instead, you find, like what you see here, warriors, horses, like an army, etc. The reason for this is because this temple was built to commemorate Krishna Devaraya's victory over the Gajapati kings of Orissa. Therefore, war scenes adorn the Gopuram as sculptures. So we go into this temple, find lots of sculptures of various forms of Krishna, and this entire place around the Krishna temple was designated as Krishnapura. There is also a Pushkarini here. It had its own marketplace. It was literally one section of the city of Vijayanagara. We've seen many temples now. We look at another kind of architecture. And this is Indo Islamic architecture, as you can see. What makes it very Islamic are the beautiful arches and the domes, etc. While the Vijayanagara rulers were fighting against the sultans of the Deccan, they really appreciated Islamic architecture, and so there was an intermixture of Islamic architecture with their own kind of architecture in their secular structures. And this structure is famously known as the elephant stables. The Vijayanagara army must have consisted of like hundreds and hundreds of elephants, and some of the elephants must have been royal elephants on which the kings rode, and they were said to be housed here. Another structure that is extremely beautiful and also has some Islamic elements is this. It's called the Chitrangini Mehel, and it was a kind of a maybe a summer resort for the queens of the Vijayanagara palace. Now, this is what people really are awestruck when they come to Hampi. This is called the stepped tank. I mean, all tanks have steps, but the steps have been here so beautifully arranged. This is a famous step tank of Hampi. Now, what happens is, it's unfortunately only when there is hardly any water that you notice the beauty of these steps, and when it's full, you don't. I mean, it just covers all the lovely workmanship. Now, I would like you to notice, we keep looking at the step tank, yes, but if you notice this, this is what we should see where I'm pointing. This is what is called an aqueduct. Hampi has lots of water bodies. We have the river Tugabhadra on one side, the Kamalapura lake on the other side. And so water was brought into the city of Hampi through these aqueducts. When we think of aqueducts, students of history immediately think of the Roman aqueducts. They are very famous and far more ancient. After all, Hampi was in the medieval times. But anyway, these are aqueducts and water was poured into the tank like this. So this is the famous step tank of Hampi. And when full, it looks like this. All right, this is, now we come to some of the monolithic sculptures. Hampi is known for its huge boulders. Those of you who've been there will realize that it's extremely rocky. It's very green, it's very fertile, also very rocky. So we generally avoid going to Hampi in summer because there's so much radiation, there's so much heat. Now, one of those huge boulders was in the 16th century cut from the top to the bottom into a huge sculpture of Lord Narasimha. See, what I mean to say is from the top, including this thing, with the serpent Adisesha, including this decoration, which is called a Torana, right up to the bottom, the whole thing is one piece of stone. It's a monolith. Now, what you're actually looking at, as you can see, the hands are all broken. Narasimha had 4 hands, one holding the Shankar Chakra, one holding the bow, one holding the arrow, and one hand that's probably holding the arrow, going around goddess Lakshmi, who was seated here. And so basically, this is a sculpture of Lakshmi Narasimha, because Lakshmi was seated on his left lap. And if you can notice, this is her hand that is going behind his hand, like that. Only the hand is there. So we said it's Narasimha. Now I'm saying it was Lakshmi Narasimha. Now I'm going one step ahead and saying it was Yoga Lakshmi Narasimha. He's in a yogic stance, he's in a yogic pose, yogic posture, and this is called a yoga patta or a yoga bandha, and that goes around his knees, like the famous Ayyappa of Sabarimala fame, various other deities in Hinduism. There is a band around his. It's a yogic posture, and you need a band to maintain that posture. So this is 6.7 meters, not feet, 6.7 meters high. And there is an inscription close by, still intact. You can see that inscription. It mentions that it was consecrated by a priest called Krishna Bhatta at the behest of Krishna Devaraya in 1528. This was built in 1528. So this sculpted in 1528. So this is a 16th century monolithic sculpture around which a temple was built. So all these are stone blocks and a temple was built, and unfortunately the temple fell into ruin. This Lakshmi Narasimha this is the inscription. This is how it looks today. That's the Adisesha at the back. Now I want to show you from an old photograph taken by Alexander Greenlaw. I have to tell you, I've taken it from this book. This is how that Narasimha looked originally. Sans hands, sans legs. The legs were broken, the arms were broken, Lakshmi was broken, the Yoga Patta was broken. The Archaeological Survey of India, under whose care much of Hampi is today, actually patched up the chest, put back the legs, and put back the Yoga Bandha, knowing that this is how it must have been originally. They were going to put back Lakshmi and the hands, but then that project got shelved. So you must understand that this is how that Yoga Lakshmi Narasimha was. All right. Now, wherever you go in Hampi, you'll see it's extraordinary sculptures. We now go to a temple called the Hazara Rama Temple, 15th century. It's in the core. It's in the core of the royal zone, and this is how you go into this temple. There is no gopuram, but that's how you go into it. Um, Hazara, as you all know in Hindi, is 1,000. Rama. 1,000 Ramas? Can there be 1,000 Ramas in a temple? Truly an exaggeration. But they say Hazara Rama. Now, the original name was Ramachandra Temple. They say Hazara Rama simply because there are like multitudes of sculptures of Ramayana in this temple. So again, in ruins, there is absolutely no puja. You don't find Rama, Lakshmana, Sita, and Hanuman in the main sanctums at all. It's totally empty, as I'm showing you. But the walls of the temple carry, I repeat, innumerable sculptures from the Ramayana, starting from the very beginning. This is the boy Shravan Kumar carrying his blind parents. Maybe some of you know the story, some of you don't, but this is where the Ramayana somewhat begins. Shravan Kumar in the forest carrying his blind parents. He hangs this log of wood on the tree. The parents are kept safe. He goes to get water for them, puts the pot into the river, and there's a gurgling sound. Glug, 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 glug. He's taking water in the pot. King Dasharatha, who is hunting, doesn't see the boy, young man. He just hears a gurgling sound and he thinks it's an animal and he shoots. He doesn't see the boy. He's standing behind the tree. He shoots. The arrow enters the chest of Shravan Kumar and he dies. And Dasharatha is very badly upset. He goes and apologizes to the parents. Anyway, that's a long story. So almost the entire Ramayana is here in the form of sculptures. And this is Dasharatha performing what is called the Putra Kameshti Yaga, which was a ritual to beget sons. And this is a rishi named Rishi Shringa performing the puja. And the three wives of Dasharatha are shown here. And then the four sons of Dasharatha are shown here. The story goes, Rama and Lakshmana go with Vishwamitra to the forest to help him complete his yajna and fight Tataka. This is Tataka being killed, and it goes on and on and on. I fully realize I'm running out of time. I'll end in a few minutes. Another structure to be seen in Hampi is this platform called the Mahanavami Dibba. You see, the Dashara festival was a very, very grand one in Hampi. The foreign travelers have waxed eloquent. I mean, they've written pages and pages about this very grand event, the Navaratri, the Dashara festival. And it is said that the king and the people from the royal family, the important people, used to sit on top of this platform called the Mahanavami Dibba. This is how you climb up. This is how you go up. There is a rear entrance as well. And on top, maybe all these stones were kept here to erect wooden poles and have a shamiana kind of thing on top under which the kings and their family could sit. And they used to watch the parade of horses and camels and elephants. Think of a Republic Day parade. The entire grandeur of the Vijayanagara Empire with their feudatories, governors, vassals, etc. was showcased. So what do we have on the walls of this Mahanavami Dibba? Lovely sculptures. Dancers doing the kolatam. All this was part of the Vijayanagara Empire. Elephants, dancers, soldiers, etc., etc., etc. Hampi, as I told you, is Kishkinda of Ramayana fame. So ever so many sculptures, of Hanuman are here. This Bhakta Hanuman. Now this is the Hanuman called Veera Hanuman, with his hand up like that, instilling a lot of courage and a lot of fearlessness in the people of Hampi. You have Narsimha again. You have various forms of Vishnu. This is Gajendra Moksha, Vishnu and Lakshmi. Lots of Shiva temples, lots of Vishnu temples. Everywhere you turn in Hampi, you have mantapas, you have pavilions. They are there on the hillocks, they are there on the plains. They are literally there in the middle of the river Tungabhadra also, because in the summer months when the water level was low, you could go and sit in these mantapas. And the famous Carnatic music composer Purandara Dasa lived in the Vijayanagara times. He is known to have visited Vijayanagara, Hampi, And there is a lovely mantapa called the Purandara Mantapa, literally on the banks of River Tungabhadra. It's beautiful, it's scenic, it's cool, where Purandara Dasa is said to have sat there and composed. So this is how Vijayanagara looks. Completely rocky, completely beautiful, panoramic view. The sun set over Hampi in 1556, 1565 AD. From 1336, when it was established, it grew from strength to greater strength. Four separate families make up the Vijayanagara dynasty. The Sangama, the Saluba, and the Tuluva, who ruled from Vijayanagara. Later, after they left Hampi, Vijayanagara, there was another dynasty called the Aravidu. So, four of them make up the Vijayanagara dynasty. From 1336, I repeat, glory to greater glory to greater glory. From a very small principality became the kingdom and became an empire. It became the greatest empire in the whole of Asia in the medieval times. It reached its peak in the reign of Krishna Devaraya, and then very slowly there was a plateau, and then there was a slide. And 1565, Hampi was ruined. It came to an end, never to go back to its glory. Though it is said that after they went out of Hampi, the Vijayanagara rulers did try to come back, but it was an effort in vain. They couldn't do it, and the city fell upon bad times, turned into a ghost town. Then finally, Hampi was kind of, if I can use the word, rediscovered. People started looking at the ruins of Hampi, and they found that it must have been a glorious, glorious city. Historians looked at the various sources and pieced together the history of Hampi, and archaeologists got working there. The Archaeological Survey of India and the Karnataka State Department of Archaeology have done great service. Many of the temples are in ruins. There are still some temples that are in active worship, like the Virupaksha Temple, etc., etc. It is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It was a city that was known throughout the world in the medieval times at its height. Today, it's a World Heritage Site, and people come from all over the world. Proud we are that there existed such an empire in India. We must remember that when Krishna Devaraya was ruling, Babur was coming from Samarkand into India. You can look at your history books, the date tallies. So the height of the Vijayanagara Empire was when the Mughals were actually coming into India. So thank you, friends, very much for this opportunity given to me to talk about one of my favorite places in India, Hampi. And I hope all of you will, if you have not gone there already, please do go. Even if you don't like temples, you don't like forts, you don't like anything else, scenic. There is a river Tungabhadra, there are orchards, various types of birds. It's a lovely place. Please do go. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this amazing and vivacious tour. And now the floor is open for questions, and I request that everyone who has any query can type the question in the chat box. Thank you.
I haven't showed you everything, obviously, for lack of time. There are two Ganeshas that are monolithic. One is about 2.5 meters high, and the other is almost double its size. So the two Ganeshas, yes, are monolithic. There is a monolithic Nandi in front of the Virupaksha Temple, which is ruined. There is a monolithic Linga also called the Badavi Linga. Yeah, there are many monoliths. I showed you only one. I showed you only the Yoga Lakshmi Narasimha for want of time.
Ma'am, I had a question.
Yes.
You said that the palaces have been ruined, and so that then why is Hampi still considered as a religious center? It is.
No, it's not considered that much a religious center as a archaeological paradise. There are still some temples that are in active worship, undoubtedly, but people go there more for its history, its archaeological value, more that than as a religious center.
Ma'am, I have a question. I'm Arush Shinde
Yes.
from Nalanda Public School. My question is, what is the best time to visit Hampi, and how many days can we take to visit Hampi completely?
The best time, I would say, weather-wise, would be between November and late February. It's a beautiful time. Unless you like the monsoons, and you can go during the monsoon times as well. But weather-wise, I would say November to end Feb. Maybe the first week of March would be the best time for you to go. Honestly, you can spend 1 month in Hampi and yet not see it all. But then most of us don't have that kind of time to keep aside a month. You very minimum, I would say, is like 3 to 4 days. Minimum. So if you get a long weekend, then go to Hampi. 3 to 4 days. Yes, you could see a lot of it if you go there in the morning and come back in the evening. You could. 3 days minimum. But then once you go, you'll feel like going again and again. That's for sure.
Ma'am, are there any guided walks also organized for tourists in Hampi?
I don't know of any organized tourist walks that happen there. Maybe there are, but I really don't. I don't. Okay, so ma'am, during the talk, there was a reference to Kishkinda Kanda. Have the One second, let me come back to the question. Have the rulers built structures there too? No, what I meant to say was in the Valmiki Ramayanam, the reference to Kishkinda and the descriptions of Kishkinda given in the Valmiki Ramayanam tally absolutely with Vijayanagara, with Hampi. This was definitely the Kishkinda mentioned in Valmiki's Ramayana. But we don't have any structures from that time because Vali and Sugriva possibly didn't, maybe they had palaces there, but we don't have anything from that time. What we have in Hampi are mostly Vijayanagara structures. And in the case of the Virupaksha Temple, some structures from slightly earlier periods, nothing from the Ramayana times, no. But this is definitely that Kishkinda.
Ma'am, I am Sailesh Jadhav. I have a doubt.
Yeah.
Is it necessary to have a guide with us?
I'm sorry, is it necessary to
have a guide with us?
A guide would be good. Yes. If not, at least an escort who could tell you, where exactly to go. But to anybody going to Hampi, my advice would be to please read up a bit. The Archaeological Survey of India has come out with a wonderful guidebook, highly illustrated, very, very economically priced. So if you could pick up that guidebook from somewhere or some other good book you could read upon before going there, it would be of immense help. But what the Archaeological Survey of India has done in Hampi is another wonderful thing. You have plaques, you have boards everywhere. Like, for example, outside the Yoga Lakshmi Narasimha Temple sculpture, you have a board giving you all the details. But then, there are so many spots that you need to visit in Hampi. If you go by yourself, you could, miss out on all of them. So an escort would be ideal. A very good guide would be excellent. But nevertheless, read up and then go. It would benefit you greatly. But those plaques are of immense help. The boards that are there outside every monument are of immense help. So, one more question. Did Vijayanagara rulers build structures to commemorate the Kishkinda Kanda? In the sense that there are so many Hanuman sculptures in Hampi, so many Hanuman sculptures. You don't see that many Hanuman sculptures anywhere else in India in one concentrated place. And then the Hazara Rama temple itself, with so many Ramayana sculptures. So all that leads you to understand that they were commemorating the Ramayana, this being Kishkinda. You also have what is called the Matanga Parvata, where Matanga Maharishi, very much, part of the story of Vali and Sugriva. I don't have time to go into the details. The Matanga Parvata, the Rishyamukha hill, and then there is supposed to be a cave called Sugriva's cave. Then there is something associated with Sita. So little pieces of tradition, all of that are there in Hampi. But like I said, the Hazara Rama temple and many of the Hanuman sculptures from the Vijayanagara time lead us to feel that they were in fact commemorating this place as Kishkinda. How long did it take to build all these structures? That we won't know. That we really won't know. How does a monument become a World Heritage Site? What is the criteria? Okay, that you can find in the World Heritage Site itself, the UNESCO World Heritage Site, many criteria. The historicity, the archaeological value, etc., etc. How many UNESCO sites are there in India? Um, Offhand, I wouldn't know the exact number. I really wouldn't know. I can only tell you that last year, one more was, we are talking about, we have natural heritage, we have built up heritage. So as far as built up heritage is concerned, this temple from the Kakatiya times, which is the Ramappa temple in a place called Palampet in Telangana, is the latest addition to the UNESCO World Heritage List. Are there evidence of a structured palace in Hampi? Yes, I didn't show it to you in the course of this lecture. There were palaces of the Vijayanagara kings in Hampi. The foreign travelers again go, the way they have described the palaces of Krishna Devaraya's palace was so grand, so beautiful, inlaid with all kinds of precious gems, etc. Sadly, those palaces don't remain, but the foundations are there. In fact, quite close to the Hazara Rama temple, you can see the foundations, the ruins of the palaces. But grand they were, from the descriptions we get from literature, indigenous, local literature, and the accounts of the foreign travelers.
Ma'am, I had a last question that
Yes.
why is Hampi considered as a UNESCO World Heritage Site? I mean,
It has everything going for it. You have history, you have archaeology, you have architecture, you have sculptures, you have irrigation, you have tanks. I showed you only one tank. There are so many tanks. Hampi has it all. If ever there was a site that qualified for a UNESCO World Heritage Site, it would be Hampi. I mean, that's without doubt.
thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
Uh, thank you so much, ma'am, for your time, for your valuable time. I hope that you all really enjoyed the session and it has been insightful for us. We got to know so much about Hampi. I mean, it was really great to listen from you about this site. Thank you so much, ma'am. This
My
session was
pleasure.
really insightful.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me once again. Namaste.